Hello.
Welcome back.
And this time we're going to get into some more nitty-gritty. We're going to get into some arts, some freelancing, some career talk.
So we starting with Miss, because
Miss
one
who?
of us,
That's me. We're going to get into it a little bit.
because you had a whole journey with freelancing and with
For sure.
yourself,
For sure.
you know, with your career and your identity, and then going, now you have a job.
I'm like full-time with a brand.
Yeah.
It was a whole journey getting there, for sure. And it was a journey that, I mean, we'll talk a little bit more in depth right now. We'll get into it, but it was something that I didn't really see happening. Like it just happened. Not in that way, at least. It was very, in hindsight, I could see how it led up to there. And it was such a beautiful experience. And it's such a rewarding job. Like I would not trade my job for anything. It's like I find a lot of passion in my work. And I find a lot of passion and I find a lot of myself in what I do. And I just love my job. And I'm so blessed to be able to say that I love what I do. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's something that everybody wants, to love what they're doing.
I really hope that everybody gets the opportunity to do that at some point in their life, you know, in some way or another. I really hope that I would love that for everyone, you know, especially because we dedicate so much of our time into work, you know, the way that our lives are set up and society set up, like a lot of our time does go into work. So I would hope, I hope and pray that everybody gets to do something at least meaningful to them, you know, whatever that may look like. But
And your journey started like,
yeah, so
when you graduated, no?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I do photography and video. I'm like sort of in the content creating realm, the photography realm. And I guess running it back a little bit, something that I've always been passionate about since I was a kid, since I can remember. Like there's a photo of me, if we could insert this on the podcast for those who are watching, there's like a photo of me when I was like 2 or 3, holding a little film camera, an old film camera. And it's so crazy because I didn't see this as like, I feel like you always hear about people like, you know, since I was a kid, I did this and that, blah, 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 blah. And I didn't really see it as it was happening. But now looking back, I'm like, oh my God,
one of those.
I was one of those. Yeah. And I didn't see it that way, you know? And since I was little, I've always had a passion for, I've always been a dreamer. I've always been a very vivid imaginator. I've always, since I would put on plays with my neighbors and I would direct them and have them like stand a certain way and have scripts. Like when I was in, I think it was 5th or 6th grade, I wrote like a 40 page script of like this high school drama. I don't know what, but like everybody had lines and it was just like, I would just write. And it was because I remember being a child and like it would be to the point where it was so frustrating. Like example, like, okay, let's pretend that this is this color, that blah, blah, blah. And like, and I would get so frustrated because I wanted you to see how I was seeing it because I wanted us to be in that world, you know? Like all I could remember is just like that intense feeling in my body as a kid.
Did something like inspire that or like trigger that?
I think I just always,
like,
from
why
what I could
was
remember,
it, or from what you can remember,
from what
like,
I can
did
remember,
movies inspire you so much? Did someone specifically inspire you so much?
Reading books, movies. I think I was just always a big imaginator, and those things would just take me deeper into my imagination. Dreams. I would dream.
Yeah,
a lot.
Dream till today. Like
very vivid dreams, and I still remember this dream that I had as a kid. And I remember waking up and it was like this whole plot. And I was like, I want to make that into like a movie one day, you know? And I remember going downstairs for breakfast and like sitting down with my siblings and telling them this dream and like wishing that I could show them how vivid it looked in my mind. And I would do that even playing outside with my neighbors. And I would have them like I would like direct little music videos. I used to burn music on CDs and like put on like, I'm like, all right, you're gonna do like Circus by Britney Spears. I was like, we're gonna have 2 big boxes of like life-size dollhouse, I don't know what, here and here, and you're gonna rip out and it's gonna look yellow. And I remember I would draw it out and be like, all right, ready, 1, 2, 3, and I would like help choreograph my neighbors, and we would like get into this formation. We did like Disturbia by Rihanna, like, and I would like imagine we're gonna put cobwebs here and like, and I would just direct this whole thing. And so it's something that lived in me and I would do all the time as a child.
And it's like the aspect of you wanting to show other people what was in your mind. You know, that like, boosted you to.
For sure. All I could think about as a child was like, I just want to play. You know, what do you mean? This is play. And I really do feel like work in my field, and for me, work is play. Like I get to play every day. I literally get to play for a living. And it's like, what? It's mind blowing to me. Even just saying that out loud to you, I'm just like, I'm saying that out loud? Like, little me would have never thought that, that I get to play. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It makes me so emotional thinking about it because I care so much about it. And then when I was 15, I was like heavily inspired by YouTube growing up. Like YouTube was something that to this day, like YouTube was one of my favorite platforms to be on. I remember for my 15th birthday, after my quinceañera, my goal was with my quinceañera money, like, I'm going to get my camera, I'm going to get a tripod, and I'm going to make YouTube videos. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And I remember even before, because I started making my little YouTube videos in middle school, and actually I did YouTube videos.
They're still on there, ladies and gentlemen.
They're on private. I'm a little,
So you always figured out a way to do this.
I guess, yeah. Like, I was just always like, all right,
with your friends, or even like on YouTube.
Friends, family.
Use your resources from your money.
Yeah, I remember I used to, because obviously you need to edit your videos. And I was like, how do I even edit videos? And I would like look up like where to edit videos and like what's for free. Because like, girl, I was 12. Like, well, whose money? And like, obviously my parents are like, what do you mean give you money for an editing software? Like, what do you think? Who do you think you are? They'd have no idea. They don't even know they don't know how to use technology, So I remember my sister had a MacBook, and I would ask her if I could borrow it so I could use iMovie to edit my little YouTube videos. And I remember I would like make her computer hella slow because I didn't know how to like render files. Like, I just remember her laptop was like dinosaur slow, and it was just hard to do. But after every single little video, I would make a little intro to all my videos. And it was like when I would kind of get the best of the best clips of what I got. And make a little montage to music. And I remember I would sneak peek that to like my family and some of my friends and be like so proud of that. Like, be like, look what I just made. Like, I just And it was like this feeling as a kid that I always like, like this. I want this. Like, I want to chase this. And I know that feeling could look differently, or it could be externally manifested in different ways, but the feeling's still the same. Going into college, people would always, in college and high school, when you're looking into applying for schools, you're like, what is my major, blah, blah, blah. And like my AVID teacher had us kind of like take a bunch of quizzes to find out what we like and this and that. Because I always saw creating as like a hobby. I had these dreams, right? But it was never something that I thought I could really do.
But you had... when you were younger, you said, I remember you telling me that you wanted to be a director, no?
Yeah, I would say it, but...
You didn't really actually see it?
I didn't see it. Like, I'd be like, yeah, I would want to be a director. But how to get there? No idea. I have no idea. Like, I'm like, I want to be a this, and that. But no idea how to get there. And then I remember when you're older and people are like having you be realistic, and like you're hearing about all these majors, and you're hearing about like science and being a doctor, being a psychologist, being all this, being a bank, being a accountant, I realized like, I'm like, fuck, where does my creativity lie within that? And I remember having a lot of friction mentally with the idea of like, what am I going to do? And nothing that I didn't see what I wanted to do in any of these things. And I remember just being like, but how do I get there? And what does there look like? And but I remember my teacher being like, I mean, you seem like you're passionate about film. Always heard that getting into the film industry was a very, very, very hard thing to do. And getting into creating is a very hard thing to do. And it was always told in a way that like,
Turned you off?
It felt very out of reach for me. And so it was very hard for me I never hear like, but you can do it. Like, and here's how. Like, I never had an example because I didn't know anybody like in the industry. I didn't have, and my my high school didn't know anybody either. And even getting to college, you don't really know. And so I never had a direct example of what I wanted to do and what I was real and could be attainable for me, you know? So I remember, so I went to college, but I still applied for the film programs, got into some, and I went to Cal State Fullerton. I lived in the dorms my first year, and I lived in the floor with like all the other film students. And that was such a, now looking back, it was such a pivotal point in my journey because it really derailed me, but in a way that ended up, I did find my way back. So when I was on this floor, I felt like I wasn't passionate. I don't know if I wasn't passionate, but the people on my floor, we just felt very different. And I didn't really see myself in a lot of them. And being almost like an outlier, where it even made me question, like, if I'm not like my peers, am I in the right spot? You know, like, because they would be like, you know, I love Steven Spielberg. I love all these movies and they've known all these movies and blah, blah, blah. And like, I love movies. I love film, but I didn't know and love the same movies they did. And I didn't know of them. And it was like, I felt like I was very behind. But then also I feel like my passions, like, I couldn't pretend I loved the same movies they did because I didn't. And I didn't know like if what I loved was like actually quote unquote good because they thought good was this. And I was like, am I in the right place? You know?
So you're with the right people that have the same interests, but not the same way that you.
Yeah. And because I thought mine looked different, I thought I was in the wrong spot. And I remember my first year of college, I had an amazing roommate. She had some friends on our floor. And there was this one specific person who was in our dorm at the time. Like, we were all just hanging out. And that person had asked me, like, hey, like, so what do you want to do in film? Like, you want to be an editor? You want to be a director? You want to be a producer? Do you want to do this? Blah, blah, blah. Like, what are you trying to do? And I was you're just adjusting to college. It's such a new environment. I had no idea what I was doing with anything. I didn't even know who I was at that point, you know? So I was like, my only answer was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I want, you know? And I don't know how it's going to look like. And I remember him being like, I remember this so vividly, him being like, well, if you don't really know at this point, you should probably think about switching your major because the industry is so hard to get into. If you don't know, it's very unlikely for it to happen.
Like that.
Just like that. Like, just straight up just telling me that. And I remember my roommate was like, she defended me. She's like, she doesn't need to know. Like, she's going to figure that out. Like, she doesn't need to know. And that's when I realized, like, this person was like, it was like your typical, like, film student. Like, he went to an arts high school that was like, he knew he wanted to do film at a young age and, like, was in all these programs and, like, knew all these things and blah, 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 blah. And I had thought, like, oh, if I didn't grow up in that way and if I didn't have all this prior knowledge, am I too late? Am I too late? I literally thought I was too late and I was only 18. Like, I thought the ship had sailed and been done because everybody else who was in the industry, whatever, had been knowing as kids, they had like their little child prodigy moment. I never had that in that way. So I thought, you know, and I remember after that, I went into marketing. I did a lot of marketing stuff. I got a lot of internships in marketing.
And that time, were you practicing that part of yourself or that creative mind, creating things when you're in the marketing, or no, you were like completely like, oh, it's not for me then?
I really thought the production aspect of creating was not for me. I thought I was going to just be like in the distribution marketing world of it. And so I wasn't
marketing.
Yeah, I wasn't creating. It was 2020 and I always had my camera and I was around one of my friends. Her name is Katie Brown and she used to be a photographer during high school. Like, she shot for like, I think it was like PacSun or Brandy, and she was like in this collective group in San Francisco, and we met in college and stuff, and we should shoot together. Like, we should just have fun, like just be creative, you know? Because I remember expressing to her that I've always like wanted to and this and that. She's like, let's do it together. And that's kind of when I started picking up my camera, and it just never really stopped from there, and it really propelled
Picking
forward.
Up your camera as in doing shoots with your friends?
Just doing shoots with my friends, for sure. It started off as doing shoots with my friends. It started off with just doing little photos of myself for Instagram, and I was like a little Aries, not a little, an Aerie ambassador at the time. And I remember just wanting to take my photos on that camera because I wanted him to look a little bit more professional. And
how did you even become the Aerie ambassador?
They reached out to me on Instagram, and I thought it was fake.
Oh yeah.
And I remember being like, what? Like, and I remember looking into it, and it was like this whole agency, and it was legit. I had to go through an interview process and all that, but I ended up, so that's how I got that.
Okay.
And I wanted to take pictures for that, and I just started taking pictures with my friends. And then my last year of college, still pretty unsure, but like, still really into photography, practicing with my friends and just being fun, being creative. And then I graduated thinking I was still going to go into marketing because I had all my internships in marketing. And I even had like an internship in the film industry. I thought I was going to do like marketing for like a movie distribution company, like, I thought that's what I was going to like lead towards, because it did spike my interest. But I graduated 2021, and it was just so hard to find a job.
In marketing?
Yeah, so hard. Like, now in hindsight, I can see why all the no's were, redirections into where I am now. But it was so, I remember applying to 100 jobs and like over 100 jobs, and I had like a whole Excel sheet. I was very serious about like.
So you spent your time and energy.
Like I had graduated, I moved back home, and I was like, you know what, like let's get into it. And had like, I had a whole Excel sheet. My Excel sheet had like whole spreadsheet, 100 jobs, color coded everything. And I remember only hearing back from like 4 positions, interviewing for 2, and just getting one of them. And it was like this like freelance position creating for this personal trainer who trains like young college athletes, baseball athletes. And he was like, I just need help with my marketing. Do you know how to do it? And I was like, yeah, I have a camera. I have all this stuff, blah, blah. I think I know enough about video editing through what I did as a kid for YouTube. Like, I'm pretty sure I could make some cool stuff for your job. For your business page. And but before that, I was also freelancing for a family friend who's a tattoo artist, because she was like, I need help with my Instagram. Angie, your Instagrams, I like your Instagram. I like blah, blah, blah. Can you help me? So I was like doing that as well. So I was like, okay. But in my mind, as I was doing that, it always just felt like I'm going to do this until I find a job. I never thought of that being a job,
Okay.
And so got into that. And I was freelancing for my first year of freelance. So that was right after I graduated, was kind of like me learning a lot about my camera, learning a lot about photo, because it's such a different world than video editing. Learning a lot about Lightroom and all the different programs that you use for video and for camera. And it was just also learning about entrepreneurship, because I never studied entrepreneurship, and I didn't know what I was doing at the time was entrepreneurship. I thought I was there was a lot for me to learn. And my brother, I remember telling me like, this could be like a business, Angie. Like, you could have a bunch of different clients and you work for yourself and you do it to do what you love and blah, 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 blah. Like, this could be your own business. This is a job. Like, there's people who do this. Huh? And I never knew that was a thing. Like, I never knew freelancing was a whole world in itself. But now looking, there's so many people who freelance and so many brands and jobs who look for freelancers for work. I just wasn't tapped into that space. So I didn't know. I wasn't aware of it at the time. And so my first year of freelancing, I did a little bit of everything. Like, I did sports to tattooers to restaurants, to like grad stuff, to weddings, parties, like anything that I can get my hands on to practice. Like, I did it because I used to think it's because I quote unquote didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I didn't know what industry I wanted to be in, but I just didn't have the balls to really like go after it, But
because you didn't know how to?
I didn't know how to. I just didn't like, I didn't know if it was actually a possibility for me, So I was like, I'm going to just do everything until I quote unquote figure it out, what I really want to create. But
while you were doing these like freelancing, while you had these clients, you were still becoming better and learning about different things.
God,
and you weren't just like stagnant. You like wanted to become better.
Yes, like I remember constantly I love using Notion as a platform to like take notes. I use it in college. And I had like a whole section of just like all the things that I would like learn and take notes on, but editing wise and camera wise, anything that I could learn. And at that time I was trying to then figure out how to build systems for myself. So that way I was constantly using my social media, because I was on social media a lot as a consumer, but how do I use this in a more productive way that's going to allow me to be more creative, like as a tool? So I was also kind of like building systems in place, like folders in each application, doing a lot of unfollowing of people who were kind of clouding my page, because I really wanted it to be filled with things that would inspire me, because I was so like, I want this to be me. How do I get, if I'm on social media for hours a day, like this is a big part of who I am. How do I also streamline this in a way that's going to make me become someone that I want to be? So it was a lot of building systems and using my tools that I use on a daily to aid me in my journey, my creativity.
What helped you start, like motivate you into creating those systems? Because people sometimes can relate and be like, well, how did you end up doing these steps if I don't know how to? Like, how am I supposed to know? Like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know.
I think simultaneously, I was also, and I still am really into like self-help and self-discovery. And I was also trying to figure out who I was as a person.
So you were in tune with that part of yourself at the
I
same
also
time,
knew that in order to self-discover, I need to rework a lot of my habits. And it also simultaneously involved my creativity and my job, because it's all intertwined in one. So it was my journey with myself and my discovery and my spirituality was very much intertwined with my journey.
So were you like focusing on this part of yourself, and then that just like naturally helped you with your career?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. It actually started first with like my spiritual journey and my self-discovery journey. Started that first, because that was in 2020. I was still in college. And then that later on, through the foundations and what I've learned in the beginning of my spiritual journey, it then helped me discover myself as a creative and what I wanted to do for a living and how I wanted to, I guess, live out my purpose.
And so did that give you like the confidence to take the risks?
100%. I don't think I would have been able to do it without this, like without my relationship with God. I also feel that a lot of the moments of me discovering who I was and finding out what I wanted to do was through conversations with God that I would have and paying attention to the little synchronicities in your life and the little signs all orchestrated at the same time. So when after my first year of freelancing, just doing a little bit about everything, it was actually on our trip with me and you when we went to Europe. It was in Switzerland. I had that's kind of when everything clicked for me of what I wanted to really, really pursue. And that was
you had to take a step back. No?
Yeah, I had to take it was after my first year of freelancing. I knew that I wasn't very happy. Like I knew that I was close to it, but I knew that what I was actually doing, what I was actually creating wasn't hitting it yet.
But how was like the whole freelancing in itself? Because I'm sure like it's scary to do so, because it's like it's unstable sometimes, and I'm sure there's like ups and downs of it, but like you lived with your family, thank God, so you didn't have to worry about that. But 100%. Did you feel like you needed to like move out? Was that a goal when you were freelancing? Like what was your, financially speaking?
Oh my God, yeah, it was, freelancing was financially and in a lot of other ways, especially when you're starting out, it's very scary because nothing is
certain.
Nothing's certain. Every month looks very, very, very different. One month you might have a really great month, and the next month you might not make anything. And it's very, there's a lot of outreach that you need to do on your own, like reach out to people and get your name out there. There's a lot of networking that you need to do as well. Yeah, that a lot of, especially in the beginning, until you build a good amount of clients, a lot of your work pertains around pitching yourself to people and cultivating like a portfolio and all that stuff. And it just, if
selling
I can go
yourself.
back yeah. And if I can go back in time, I would remind myself that this all takes time. And exactly, I was very, very, very fortunate that I was able to move back home and live with my parents during this time, because I can't imagine doing that. I could imagine it would be a million times harder doing that while I needed to also pay bills. I just could imagine it looking so different. So I'm very lucky and very fortunate that I was able to move back home, and also home being not far away from a really big hub, which is Los Angeles. And at the time, speaking about moving out, this is all before Europe, like my first year of freelancing. I thought I wanted to move to New York to pursue my passions.
You really
yeah, there's something, and I mean, to this day, I still feel like at some point in my life, I might be there, might not be there to live. I don't know. Yeah, I really wanted to move to New York. And my whole, like, all of high school, I was like, I want to move to New York. And so that's what I thought moving out was going to be like. I thought I was going to, like, get a job in New York and move to New York. Go to Europe. And I remember it was a very spiritual trip as well for me. I grew a lot spiritually and grew, it wasn't just for work. It was just for me just to be in tune with myself and with God. Switzerland, it was such like beautiful, magical day. And I remember us going to this park that we weren't even supposed, like, I didn't want to go in the beginning. Remember the national park? You're like, let's just go.
Oh my God.
Because in my head,
such a scary kid, I swear.
In my head, when me and Diana went to Switzerland, she was like, let's just go. I swear to God, to me, it looked like you just looked at the map and were like, let's just go here. You pointed at some random mountain and was like, let's just go here. And I was like, where is that? Like, what do we do? Is there people who live there? Like, is it safe? Like, I knew nothing. And you're like, no, let's just go. Let's just go to this mountain, blah, blah, blah. But you're like, it's a national park.
Trust me. And you were like, no.
And I was like, I had so much fear about it. Because I was like, what if we get kidnapped? Like, I didn't know, like I was very paranoid about the situation. But luckily, Diana was like just super free-spirited and very open.
I knew what I was saying.
Yeah, she knew what she was talking about. And I was just being a little bitch. But we ended up going. Yeah, and it was like one of the most magical train rides that I've ever had to this day. Like, nothing beats that train ride. And it was like, I remember me and Diana spent a lot of time alone but together on that trip. And that was one of the moments that me and you both, we sat in different areas on this train, because it was a very empty train.
There was nobody there, just us.
And me and her sat on different parts of the train,
but it
with
wasn't
their own
like
music.
It was like normal. Like, you were just like, I'm gonna go in the front, and I was like, okay,
I'm gonna go over here. And it was like, we did that a lot during the trip. Like, we would have also time apart, and that was one of the moments. And I remember just crying the whole way on that train ride, because it was just so beautiful. But I felt so present in that train ride. Like, I felt like life was just in its most vivid color. And I remember asking God on that train ride, like, God, what is it? What am I supposed to know? Like, what are you trying to tell me? Like, what? I'm listening now, and I'm listening. What is it? What am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be doing? And I remember I literally felt as if I was having a conversation with God. Like, it was like voices back and forth, but ended up within that conversation, I ended up realizing, or I felt like I was told, like, it's always what you've been passionate about. It's always been music or like fashion. Always things that I did as a kid. Like, I would make like my little fashion videos for YouTube. And that's something I felt so creatively compelled towards. And I love soundtracks and music. And I daydream a lot to music. And music helps me. It's really sparks my mind. Like, it's like music's on and my mind's just going. And so I knew those were the industries that I wanted to be. I don't know which one was going to happen. I didn't know which one was going to come first, but I knew it's something there, because that's what gets me going. This is what fuels me. And I remember in that conversation, God told me 4 different things. And it was like, you need to have patience. You know, you need to have courage. You need to be persistent. And you need to have resilience, because it's not going to be easy. You need all these things, you know? And I remember like writing it down in my journal and like underlining those things and just like crying, because it was like, I need to get really serious about developing these 4 qualities, because this is what I need in order for me to do what God is telling me that I need to do.
And how did you know it was from God?
I guess it was just a feeling. Like
was it a feeling or a knowing?
A knowing. Yeah. It was like this deep knowing that it just felt bigger than who I was and anything that I could imagine. If it being like folded upon me almost. And I all I could think about was just gold. I had to see gold. Like this whole conversation, I just felt like I was in this orb of just gold glow. And that's all I could really like describe it as. And
it was beautiful, that train ride. Like, we didn't even tell you guys what we saw. We saw like, was it like horses? We saw cows. We saw hills, like perfect weather. The colors were vibrant. There was waters. There was like
insane.
Little cottages.
It was beautiful. Like Switzerland, I'm sure we all know that Switzerland's like a gorgeous country and the nature is beautiful, but it was like truly something out of a book.
So after the trip, you know,
after the trip, I was like, all right, like I heard it. I know what I like.
Your little tool belt.
I got my little tool belt. Like, I don't know how this is gonna happen, but we're gonna like make this happen somehow. And I just remember like, okay, just gotta be patient. Just gotta trust. Gotta be resilient. Gotta be courageous, and like, we'll see. We're gonna get there eventually. And I remember after coming back from the trip, it was a little hard to kind of get my gears going. And I realized I went to New York. Then I got back on in August, and 2 months later I went to New York because I was still dreaming about New York on this trip.
Oh, yeah.
I go to New York the week after my birthday, and I end up coming back from that trip really realizing that my journey is not meant to be there yet. So I felt like I needed to close that door in order for me to fully step into this, what was supposed to be my journey in the near future, which was what I'm doing now. Because I didn't allow myself to fully immerse myself in the now because I still wanted to be there. And so as soon as I came back and that idea, like I shut that door, is when things were just started to get going. And it was like, it was the way that this would happen is I would literally, it felt very, again, like very divinely orchestrated. I would just meet the randomest people
at the right time.
At the right time. Like I would meet strangers at coffee shops. I would meet people. Like for example, one of the things that kickstarted in the music industry was on a trip. Actually, it was actually before Europe. I met one of my favorite TikTokers at Coachella, who then I worked on her. She's a director, and I worked on her sets for doing music videos. And I remember I just PA'd for a couple of her sets. And then, and again, I met her very randomly, like very out of nowhere, but I just had the courage to just like, hey, like, I love you. I love what you do. You're very talented. I just want to tell you I appreciate you. And then I just remember DMing her, and she was super sweet. Her name is Elise, very talented. Love her. And so fast forward again to November, I met someone super randomly out with my friends, who then I shot that person's show that ended up being a show. This story is just wild. So they ended up, I met this person, and I like send them my portfolio or whatever. And this person texts me on like a date in December. And that date, so they're like, okay, we're doing a show on the 31st of December, blah, 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 blah. We're opening up for this band. And the band is called The Drums. And I grew up like loving this band. Like this is one of the only bands that I went to see. Yes, it was literally, I went to go see this band like 3 times in high school and then college. Like I love this fucking band. And
shout out
when this person told me like we're opening up for The Drums, my heart was like, what the Like, and get this is not even the crazy part. The crazy part is that I found out on the day that it had been like 3 or 4 years on that day that I seen the drums. And it was going to be at that exact same venue. So I found out on that day.
A whole 360 right there.
Crazy 360 moment for me. And I remember just like being so...
Were you like, that's God?
Yes. 100%. Like there was... How, and I have no explanation how this, like, how? It felt so perfectly placed in my journey that I was like, what? You know? Yes. So absolutely.
Did it give you like a reassurance of like, I'm on the right path? Like, okay, I'm doing 100%. What I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. And I that also allowed me to release control at the same time, because I'm like, it's clearly God working for me. I just need to trust and just do what I can, but I need to trust and let go. So I was, after that, felt a lot more comfortable. And other little moments in my life allowed me to realize, like, as long as I'm just living out my true heart and my true self and trusting, the rest I don't have to worry about. God is going to make that happen for me. Because I'm following what God wants me to do. And then little by little, I start to get little opportunities on working on different sets and like assisting photographers on like different sets. But I wanted to do fashion so bad as well, but I couldn't figure something out. And I remember just in January, just doing a bunch of outreach and just like hitting up. I had like a rolling list of brands. If I saw a brand, big or small, that I liked, I wrote it down, and I knew that I would get to it eventually to DM them if they ever needed help on set, if they ever needed a photographer, blah, blah, blah. Like I was also doing my portfolio on the side. Like I was doing what I was able to.
And so then you reached out to them through what, like TikTok,
through Instagram,
LinkedIn?
Yeah, I got an ad for this brand. They're called Sinipesa. And I got an ad for them and ended up, I got an ad for them. I followed them. And then I remember the owner posting that they needed some assistance on set. And I remember just reaching out, and I was like, I also do photography. Like I would love to, if you need help shooting, I would be more than willing to help. And I was even willing to do this like for free. Like I just wanted to be there and be in the space and learn. And that's all I cared about, was learning. And so I worked on that set, and it was a film photography set. So a lot of the main photographer and the assistant photographer all shot on film. I was the only one who was doing digital. I was a good use for them because I was the only one doing digital. So it helped. I was able to fill in a gap. And I really feel that that opportunity propelled me into the opportunities I got later on that year. So after that, through someone I met on that set, ended up working for this PR agency, ended up working for an event for Revolve.
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up working for Revolve. I shot their, I want to say it's their 20th anniversary event.
We saw a lot of people there.
Yeah, that was such a gnarly, that's like, I was like, had imposter syndrome to the ass. Like I was like, huh? Like I'm in a room with Kendall Jenner, Lori Harvey, like Shay Mitchell, like all these people that I grew up watching, and I like, you know, we all see all the time. Like I'm in a room with them. Like I'm at this dinner at this mansion in Beverly Hills. Like what's going on, you know? And after that, just little brands here and there, and ended up getting another opportunity and working with Honor Active. And Chrissy was also someone that I grew up
that
really
was
admiring.
Surreal for you, huh?
That was another really surreal moment, because my fitness journey started because of Chrissy. So it was like such a full circle moment, something that I was like such a pinch me moment for sure. I thank a lot of my family and friends because she posted about it and they all threw my name in the bucket. And I'm really happy that I'm really grateful for like the support and how much the people that I care about believe in me, because I really felt like they helped make that one happen, you know? So then I worked with Chrissy. That was great, beautiful experience. And
so you continued always applying and like reaching out to people?
Absolutely.
But was it only on TikTok? Was it only on Instagram? Was it
I was always mainly, like I was looking for brands on that end. And then I was also checking like different creative platforms. Like I Love Creatives is a platform that I checked.
I love creatives.
I love creatives. So if anybody who is in the creative space and are always looking for opportunities, I Love Creatives is such an amazing resource that I used for also learning how to, I took like a video editing course on there, a video creating course. And they always have a bunch of resources and job opportunities. So I was always looking on there, and there's this other one called It's Nova, and that's for like LA or New York based opportunities. Wait, actually, sometimes they post like nationwide stuff. But so yeah, it was.
But you
mostly social
predominantly
media.
went on social media and you saw a brand that you liked, or you just like did it to anyone, or is it you were specific on who you reached out to, specific on who you applied to, or were you just like, you know what, I'm just gonna.
It was a little bit of both.
Okay.
I feel that I try to be specific as possible, and as more time went on, the more I realized I needed to be specific because I always wanted to be as precise as. Remember that feeling I described in the beginning of the video? Like I wanted to get there always. So, and that needed me to be precise. So,
to align with what you want.
Because I quickly realized if I did a brand that I didn't really feel connected with, I knew that wasn't for me. I wasn't the vessel that I was supposed to be used to do something creative for it, you know? And it would be a disservice to the brand. It would also be a disservice to me. It'd be a disservice to everybody. So the more specific and more connected and called towards the brand, the better. So I try to be specific, and I would encourage everybody to be as specific as possible. If you have the luxury to do so, like, but if you need, I also know that, you know, we need to pay bills and we need to make a living and be able to, again, pay bills. So sometimes we're not always able to do that. And then I remember through another gig, I ended up being able to shadow a photographer who I deeply admire. Her name is Cindy Romero, and she, you know, gave me the opportunity to talk to her and, you know, pick out her brain and then also shadow her on a couple of sets. And that was also like such a what moment, especially her being a Latina photographer and also, you know, being one of the first in her family to do something like that. I felt very like she was that example that I like needed to see. Then fast forward a couple months later, I had like a little dip in my freelance journey. Like I said, it's very sporadic. In the summer, it dipped. It had like a fat dip. And I also experienced where like this brand was going to send me out to a different state to shoot something for them. And then they pulled on their offer. And it was like such a hit to the heart. But also like it taught me a lot about also detaching yourself from like art is art and then business is also business, and not being super emotionally charged by business moves like that. And then also how to, it also taught me a lot about contracts, and it also taught me that, you know, as a freelancer, in order to protect yourself from money opportunities coming and leaving like that, you need to have contracts in place. And that's a whole nother there's some legalities to that as well that you need to learn about that I never knew. But ChatGPT is a beautiful, excellent resource. So use it. If you ever have any questions about like what are the rights that photographers have in California,
Google,
especially in Los Angeles, Google it. ChatGPT could write it out for you. And then ended up stumbling upon the job that I have now. And it's like, again, one of the biggest blessings that I have and something that came out of the year. And I'm like, such a pinch me thing as well. And that happened again really randomly. I saw like the job listing that my sister sent for me, and it was for a different position, and I wasn't sure if I would like align with based on the position that they were looking for. But my sister was like, you know, just apply. Like, and I wasn't sure at the time if I wanted to leave freelancing. Like I didn't know. Yeah. Like I was just at this limbo. But I was like, hey, why not? Like it doesn't hurt to see. And I threw my name in the bucket, and then they ended up, we had a conversation. I ended up editing some stuff with them, and they ended up tailoring the job to kind of fit my skills. And now I'm a full-time content creator for 30 years and been there for a couple of months. And it's like literally the best thing ever. Like I get to play all day.
It's so worthwhile, like your 100%. Whole journey. And I think that attitude of yours has really helped you throughout your journey of like being hungry to learn and not going to be like, what am I going to get from them? What if, like, you are saying that actually, but like, But like you're not taking advantage in a way. I mean, you are taking advantage in a way. Bro.
I see
But you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like that attitude of being hungry to learn, I think is essential in this journey of I'm assuming because from what you're saying, it's people see that and people appreciate that, and I'm sure that they see the value that you have because of that. Because you're not there to just be like take. You're there to like, let me see. Like, I want to help with anything. Like, even in your applying to other jobs, you're very eager to just help. And like, you even said in the beginning, like you would do it for free too. You just want the experience. And I think
just want to
that
be in
is
the
there.
room.
Exactly.
You know? I just want to learn.
Yeah. And like, how do you, like, do you think your identity lies in your career?
I feel like that's like something that I've kind of like teeter-tottered between. I guess I feel that what I'm supposed to express just happens to be done through my career, at least at this point in time. It could really be any vessel. I don't necessarily think for anybody it needs to be your career, but I do feel that my career is the vessel in which is not the only vessel, but is one of the vessels in which what I'm meant to express is being shown through. I don't think that my only inherent worthiness is that. Definitely don't think that. I think that we're all inherently worthy.
How do we do that? Like, how do we like detach from that and understand that you're not just your career, you're not just this, you're more than that? Because I asked that because I know that you were struggling with that, where your work wasn't enough. So I mean, you felt insecure about your work, so you yourself felt insecure, which I guess it makes sense. It's common sense because this work is coming out of you, and it's what you came from, like you created from your heart. Like you're so passionate about it, and obviously you will feel affected if it's being criticized, because you'll be like, oh, okay, like, but like, have you detached yourself from your work and you?
I think it's a constant effort and a constant learning curve. I don't think I have it mastered down completely. This is kind of going back to my spiritual journey. If I wouldn't have learned this a couple years ago, maybe this journey would have felt a lot harder if the 4 agreements, not taking things personal. And that's like one of the I always have to
the 4 agreements.
Yeah, I always have to remind myself, like, don't take this personal, even though creating feels like a direct mirror.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because we have so many dimensions to who we are.
You see the value that you have of yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And it would be a disservice if we simplified ourselves into just one singular piece of art, because we're way more dimensional than that. For sure.
So shout out to 30 years for hiring Angie.
I love you guys.
What would you say what would be your advice to someone who's like struggling with like whether they should go to freelancing or not? Because I know there's a lot of us who ask, especially creatives, and it's like, what am I supposed to do? I love creating, but I can't do that as a career. It's like too scary. Like I don't know how to do it. Like, what would you say to that person?
One of the things that propelled me into freelancing, and that I saw this quote on TikTok. It was like someone had said, like, we're all just trying to get back to what we used to like as a kid. And it reminded me of, okay, where does my childlike wonder stem from? And how can I get to that all the time? And I think if just chasing.
That takes courage too, because that's against what you're taught, I think.
For sure.
Where it's like, you're not supposed to go back for where you were a kid. You were a kid, like what you were playing. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, you're playing this and that. But that's when we were like the most imaginative, vivid imaginators. We don't really see how intelligent we are as children. I feel like we know a lot as kids, especially know a lot about ourselves, whether or not we inherently know or remember. I think our childlike self, our child self, was just inherently playing in what it was meant to do. You know, what did I do when no one was watching? And if I could do anything, what was I doing? I was doing that. Chase it, obviously courageously. courage is like the biggest thing. It's scary. It's scary as fuck, and you don't know whether or not it's going to work out in your favor.
I just feel like, especially as a creative, I think if you want to be an entrepreneur and anything, but since you have experience as a creative, freelancing as a creative, and having the mind as a creative that's tapped into that part of your mind way more often than others. It's I want to know, like, how, I mean, this whole time you've been telling us, like, explaining like your whole journey, but I know for me it was hard to, because I'm also creative, but I learned that that's not my path as a career. But how did you, I mean, because I guess that you always knew when you were a kid, like, you're very passionate about it. So I guess, but then you hear those people that say, like, no, don't chase your passion.
It's so important to quiet down the noise and find time to allow for that kind of inner voice to come through. And that often happens in solitude or in deep presence, you know?
And prayer.
For sure. Obviously I'm not promoting like having unhealthy like work-life balance, but like you need to be deeply serious. I think about athletes. A lot of my other existing things in my life need to aid me into this journey. Like, for example, the way an athlete will also eat clean, work out on the side, do physical therapy, do stretching.
All together, all goes
Yeah, you got to kind of
together.
morph your lifestyle around what's going to nurture me into this person.
But I think I ended up doing and progressing in the things that I wanted to progress without even realizing I was doing it. It was just like, no, I'm like tired of like not being fit. I want to be toned. I'm gonna work out, and I've been working out every day for months already. That's like a routine, you know, like prayer every day, you know, scripture every day. And it's not like, I didn't see it as like, you know what, I want to do this one goal. No, it was just like, in this present time, I don't want to do this, like I want to do this, and I'm gonna force myself to do it until I think it becomes like a certain part, I mean, a certain time in someone's life where they mature in that way. And like, they're more of like, I'm going to stop whining about how hard it is. I'm just going to do it, you know? Because I think that I was like that my whole entire life. I'm just like whining and being like, I don't want to do it. It's so annoying. And I'm not going to do it. Okay, whatever. I don't care if I feel annoyed. I'm just going to do it. My desire is bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And it took me a lot of like, I remember feeling like, is my desire just not big enough for it? When I was like having a lot of pushback. But it's also like the pushback of just creating the habit that you have to work through. But yeah, that's been my freelancing journey this far. So we'll
What a
see.
journey.
What a journey. We'll see what happens.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Of course. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys
in our next episode.
Bye.
Bye.